Good morning, friends. I welcome you to Balavin Kadai Neram, which means in English, Bala's Story Time. I am making this posting as an English translation of the Tamil story called Paruva Malai. It's written by Tamil author Mr. Tarunadithan and it has been published in the Tamil website called Solvanam. As I told you earlier, I am doing the English translation here for the benefit of my Vietnamese friends who cannot understand Tamil language. Xin chào friends, I welcome you to the story. The Monsoon by Mr. Tarunadithan. The summer of Delhi, the Indian capital, was already making a harsh breakfast statement when Professor Ramchandra was at the table with bread toast and orange juice. He had his usual morning of half an hour walk, the Hindu newspaper cum coffee, and a shower afterwards. Not so usual was the phone call just then. It was from the Prime Minister's office. In his 2 years of service in meteorology department, which makes the weather forecast, he hadn't received a call previously from even a minor portfolio minister. A few files he occasionally dealt with when there were issues raised in Parliament were routine. What on earth does the Prime Minister want to know about weather? Ramachandra, who was due to retire in a little over a year, was a bit excited if it could be about extension of service. Could it be? Before quickly brushing aside the thought, knowing he hardly had any connections needed to facilitate such. Besides, he knew his protege Sanjeev Malhotra is biding his time impatiently to get rid of the additional from his current title of additional director, as Krishnamurti has warned long ago. He wondered if he should make a phone call to Krishnamurti. Krishnamurti was Ramachandra's student at MIT. Later he became colleague, current scientific advisor, and it is the grapevine that he should be the next chairman of Atomic Commission or Space Commission. Sumati, Ramachandra's wife, she was staring at him with anticipation. No, this information is not for her, he decided. Oh, it's impossible to have a quiet breakfast with Ram, you see. Even this morning, there was a call from PMO. Is how she would get started at the ladies' club, laboring hard, an impression that he gets solicited. For breakfast meetings every day with PM or President. You can't fault her though. Whilst most of her friends talk about their husbands accompanying ministers for trips to US and Europe, she had been a bit embarrassed not to have had much opportunity other than her husband visiting Bangladesh. That too in a monsoon. He phoned the driver asking him to come immediately. It was early for the driver. In 2 years of stay in India, Ramchandra drove only once and nearly ran over an old man who appeared from nowhere on a bicycle before he even crossed the next block. It didn't take much time for him to decide he had better things to do than drive a car in India. The car seemed to ride a bit avidly today. A welcome change from the dreary usual route of office, and the weekend evening temple visits. The drive to the PM office may be the first for the driver too. The driver's wife also would have something to brag about today, he thought. Suddenly he felt a chill. Why I have been called? Surely there is some serious issue. At the PMO, Principal Secretary was hurrying him through even as Ramachandra was finishing security formalities. In a small conference room, PM had 4 others with him. Krishnamurti was one of them. If he knew this, why the hell he didn't tell me? Ramchandra thought, fuming mildly. PM looked younger than he did on TV, and sitting next to him was party president. Aye, Ramchandraji, I am sorry to summon you so early in the morning without notice, but I have important thing to discuss, said the Prime Minister. What could it be? Another conflict with Pakistan? Is he going to be asking about the situation with the snow caps and when the army can expect to advance in Siachen glaciers? Ramchandra hadn't had great success with a recent joint project with defense. Would you like some tea? The Prime Minister's gaze was a bit invasive. No, thank you. Ramchandra was brief even as thought Sanjeev would have certainly made use of this opportunity to impress with pleasantries in Hindi with the Prime Minister. PM was straight to the point. Ramchandraji, we are discussing about the regular polls coming up next March. Public, if happy, would vote for us, for which we need quite a lot. No shortage in power, abundant drinking water and good harvest. Above all, onion, the price of onion should remain normal. He paused without a smile. Otherwise, they will just forget whatever welfare we did last few years and vote for the opposition. All I want from you is what the prospects are for a good monsoon this year. If it is not expected to be good, we'll call for early elections and go to the polls this June itself. The arrangements in that case need to start immediately. If next year, then we have time for preparations. Oh, now tell us, with all the supercomputers you have deployed in your department? Professor was stuck. What should be the answer and how do I start? He caressed a ring on his finger once. Very easy question to ask, but the answer cannot be so definitive. With the current models and simulations in place, predictions much in advance cannot be accurate. The temperature measurements of land terrain, sea and other information need to be gathered, and only by the month of May, a forecast can be offered, that too with only 60% accuracy. How could I explain all this to this aging Prime Minister? Wish it was the young former PM who he heard was technologically savvy. Maybe I could have explained all about supercomputing to him. This man who is in front of me needs a simple and straightforward answer, which I don't have. Shall I say there is no conclusive answer? He thought for a moment. He noticed that Krishnamurti was gesturing at him, trying to pass a hint, but couldn't figure out what he meant actually. All eyes were on Ramachandra, and clearing his throat unnecessarily, Ramachandra said, "Sir, it's difficult to predict accurately with the current models. But you said the new computers allow you to do that in your last year press release, Mr. Ramchandra?" "Yes, we keep our systems constantly upgraded. However, it's difficult to offer a definitive answer this early, sir." The PM's look combined skepticism and disappointment. Heavy silence hung in the room, and there was only the sound of the humming air conditioner. Ramchandra felt quite uneasy. He sipped some water from the glass. "Nevertheless, Prime Minister Ji, I will try to see how best I could help based on current models." Ramachandra knew he was far from convincing and felt a bit awkward. As soon as Ramachandra entered his office that day morning, the phone rang. Krishnamurthy was fuming and he was furious on the line. "You screwed up your first opportunity with the PM. Dear, forget the model and all that. All that he needed was some comfort. Could you have not done that in the minimum?" was Krishnamurthy's voice. Krishna, but this was being thrown at me all of a sudden, and in the midst of all that gaze, what can I do?" "Don't you know, Krishna, according to the probability theory," Krishnamurthy interjected, "you're out to spoil the opportunity coming your way. See if you can come up with a better response within a week." "Ramachandra, no one needs your lectures on probability and random variables. Do you note the point? Is it okay?" Krishnamurthy hung up the phone. Ramachandra knew he couldn't give a different response in a week's time. What do these people know about monsoons and seasons, he thought. Do they know the endeavors right from the Vedic times on not just the worship of rain, but the science of it? That Varahamihira mentions about its calculations and Chanakya tells about measurements. The challenge is as old. Do they know how the Department of Meteorology was first established in 1875 and who was the first Indian scientist to join us? How silly of them to expect that I could offer them a precise prediction that on the 1st of June, 6th hour, 37th minute, a reservoir in Kerala would be filled to the brim. Just because we have a satellite and a computer. Nonsense. A gypsy fortune teller is what they need. Ramachandra was weary. His wife Sumati once in a while talks about going back to the countryside home. Maybe it's time to retire, he thought. Even as Ramachandra was thinking of calling for an emergency meeting to discuss this, Sanjeev Malhotra impatiently walked in. Someone must have already informed him. "Oh, Professor, I just heard. It was a moment of pride for the department and a good opportunity. You shouldn't have scooted and bungled this up. You could have taken me along. Anyways, let me accompany you when you go there next week." "What do you intend to tell them, by the way?" The ensuing week was eventful. PM had a meeting with Malhotra and there were some deliberations within the department. The newspapers carried the following headlines. Ruling party getting ready for the elections in October. PM discusses with Chief Election Commissioner. This was followed by above average monsoon expected this year. Record harvest on the cards. Professor Ramachandra's resignation did not receive much attention from press or anywhere for that matter. Instead, Sanjeev Malhotra's excessive grin was featured on the cover pages. We have introduced new models for simulation this year, he was boasting. The monsoon will hit Kerala on 1st June. We are confident about the accuracy, which was hitherto impossible using previous models. The stock market responded with significant gains. An ancestral home on the banks of Kaveri River, where Professor Ramachandra decided to spend his retirement life, quietly went without notice too. Except for his neighbor Sundaresan alias Sundutata, who was gratified with somewhat accomplished personage next door. Very happy that after America and Delhi, you have still not neglected our place, people and the deity Ramachandra, said Sundaresan. India Today magazine carried some lengthy articles on weather prediction tools and models, which nobody could understand, by the way, after reading it many times also. But some remarkable incidents followed. Even by June 10th, the monsoon hadn't arrived and rain became the topic of headlines once again. Ramachandra struggled for a while to find books to keep him occupied in his country home. He rummaged through the attic and found an old trunk box which was full of books. Brihat Jatakam, Jataka Alangaram, Jataka Chintamani. These were the possessions of his grandfather, the ancient wisdom of India about the horoscopes, astrology, and many more mythological and mystic things. He was happy to find something different to read. As the 5-year term was coming to a close, the ruling party had to announce the elections in India. Krishnamurti had visited Ramachandra meanwhile. The marriage alliances for Krishnamurti's daughter and her proposed marriage were getting scuttled due to the malevolent planet in the zodiac, he said. Manglik dosham in the horoscope, it has to do with the planet Mars, which was standing opposite to the progress or the prospects of the girl to get married as per the Indian astrology. Ramachandra casually obtained the girl's horoscope, did some study referring to the old books, and gave some guidance on how to go about this. Eventually, the marriage happened by the same date Ramachandra had pronounced as a part of his counseling to Krishnamurti. Very soon, Ramachandra was inundated with telephone requests from ministers, visits of secretaries, and other political bigwigs who seeked his blessings and also counseling based on astrology as to how to go about with their prospects in their life and career. The Prime Minister's apprehensions came true. The rains were inadequate that year. The harvests were low. Nationwide power cuts happened, and also the most dreaded thing also happened. The onion was selling for rupees 100 per kilogram. At Professor Ramachandra's behest took place more weddings, successful transactions for businessmen, admissions in Ivy League universities abroad India for children, and he couldn't go wrong anymore. In the polls the ruling party had suffered an unprecedented rout. The ruling party, however, started its maneuvers for a coalition government by roping in two more partners. However, the media was speculating the issues and the question of who would get the top job of Prime Minister in such a coalition. The parleys were dragging on for more than a week. On a fine evening, when Ramachandra was immersed in the Nicha Banga Raja Yoga study, there was a phone call from the Prime Minister's office. The Prime Minister is visiting Chennai on an urgent work. The media had its own share of guessworks and conjectures on what the impending work was. Was it to meet the reluctant regional party head to woo him into an alliance? Nobody knows. PM wanted to discuss with Ramachandra his horoscope and seek some advice. The principal secretary told Ramachandra, could he travel to Chennai for a brief meeting? Transportation conveniently arranged? The thought of tiring journey wasn't appealing to Ramachandra. Neither did the idea of meeting the PM as he recalled the last encounter bitterly. He politely declined, saying he had a function to attend locally on the same day. Television channels were opining that the ruling party would only be inviting trouble if they included the Tamil Nadu leader in their coalition. Even if the coalition was successful in forming the government, its stability is a serious question, the media would scream. The next morning, Professor Ramachandra woke up to the tweet music of the birds. He brewed coffee in fresh milk and indulging bath in the river Kaveri nearby his home, and after a customary circumambulation of Ganapati, the god on the river bank, the god statue, he sat down at home, dipping in the steaming hot rice dish pongal served on banana leaf, when at the door Krishnamurti appeared. Sumati received him. The PM was waiting in the car and hopes Ramachandra would forgive him for the past events and grant him a meeting, pleaded Krishnamurti, seeking Sumati's help in the process. Sumati, Ramachandra's wife, she asked them to come in and offer them seats. Ramachandra took his time to finish the breakfast and leisurely climbed on the wooden swing chair and sat down comfortably. PM made an effort to stand up and greet him with folded hands. His eyes were sullen in fatigue. With the drooping frame, he even looked to have shrunk in his height. Ramchandraji, we apologize for the disturbance early in the morning with no prior intimation, said the Prime Minister. Ramchandra asked Sumati for coffee for the visitors. Krishnamurti handed him the paper. Ramchandra put on his reading glasses and took a glance. Not a significant horoscope. How did he last this long, wondered Ramachandra. The PM hesitantly uttered, hope you are aware we are trying for a coalition rule. Ramachandra waved at him briefly, gesturing him to stop there. He closed his eyes in contemplation briefly and said definitely, just do I say. The PM eagerly awaited his words. The story of monsoon ends here, my dear friends. Please listen to it and try to subscribe to my channel and like and comment. I would like to tell you more such stories, and later I'll explain you what is the moral or what is the message behind this story. Thank you very much and have a great Sunday. Bye-bye.